After World War II, Jamaica became a top destination for the well-heeled traveller. With hotels like Round Hill and Tower Isle, and the natural beauty of Doctor's Cave in Montego Bay and Dunn's River Falls in Ocho Rios, the island soon became the playground for the rich and famous. Jamaica had always been a sleepy backwater of the British Empire, until it was discovered by Americans eager to find a relaxing refuge to escape to. Beautiful beaches, Jamaica's wonderful climate, luxurious hotels, and the soothing soundtrack of calypso music made a trip to the island an exotic and romantic getaway. In the southern coastal capital city of Kingston, the tourist havens on the north coast seemed far away. In 1962, the long history of British rule was coming to an end as independence approached and Jamaica was about to face its own destiny.
A new nation is born. The island of Jamaica, for 307 years a British possession, welcomes Princess Margaret and the Earl of Snowdon here to represent Queen Elizabeth at independence ceremonies. The princess is greeted by island dignitaries, including the Prime Minister, Sir William Bustamante, before riding through the streets of Kingston to a roaring reception. The country will be a dominion within the British Commonwealth and thus still maintain ties to all that the princess represents. At the stroke of midnight come impressive ceremonies led by the Prime Minister as the flag of the new nation is proudly raised on high. The island that has been under European domination since it was discovered by Columbus in 1494 embarks on a new era. The nation will be governed by a parliamentary democracy with a Senate and a House of Representatives. And when the reins of government are turned over to Prime Minister Bustamante, Jamaica becomes the first nation in the Western Hemisphere to gain independence since Panama became self-governing in 1903. Jamaica's economy is on more solid ground than other West Indian islands, but the new nation will need continuing aid before she becomes self-sufficient, a new member of the family of democratic nations.
Other monumental changes were taking place as well in the hot, crowded neighborhoods of Kingston's inner city. Much of the population was poor, and some were so poor they were forced to squat in Kingston's notorious Backer Wall. Jamaican musical tastes were changing. Early recordings of mento and calypso that were made to cater to the tourist trade were never popular with the average Jamaican. For them, it was jump and boogie-woogie that was popular. The recordings of American performers like Zoot Sims, Gene Hammond, and Fats Domino satisfied the cravings of the crowds in Kingston's seething dance halls and those of the young music promoter Clement Seymour Dodd. Dodd was playing records at the dances he promoted, records like those by R&B hitmaker Louis Jordan and his Timpani Five.
Crazy about that woman called Caledonia is her name. Caledonia, what makes your big head so hard, Mom?
Clement Dodd had always been interested in music, and as a young man he followed Jamaican big bands like the Eric Dean's Orchestra. At first he played the American R&B and jazz records he bought on work trips to the United States, and used his mother Doris Darlington's liquor store as his base during the early 50s, before creating his own traveling sound system called Coxson's Downbeat. His uncanny ability to pick the hottest material made him a superstar in the rough and tumble world of Kingston dance halls, where the competition was cutthroat and sometimes violent. One of the most famous venues for dancers was the Gold Coast, a beach setting far enough away from the hubbub of Kingston. The parties at the Gold Coast were usually all-day affairs and lasted late into the night. In the mid-50s, Clement Dodd began producing his own records on the Studio One and other related labels to supply his sound systems using a core of hand-picked musicians led by longtime friend saxophonist Roland Alfonso, and he quickly became the top record producer on the island.
I tell you how it started. In the early, we usually use rhythm and blues and the boogie-woogie stuff, you know, like Lionel Hampton and stuff like that. Then came the rock and roll era that wasn't so popular in Jamaica, right? So that's where I decided to go in the studio and make recording suitable for dancing. Well, that was about 1955. At that stage, we wasn't aware that the music was good enough for commercial purpose. We were just building the music, especially for our sound system. And your sound get popular if you're playing records that the other sound system men couldn't play. So in about 1961 now, other soundmen started to record going into the studio because by then I was miles ahead of all the other guys. In 1956 I started recording local artists like Bunny and Skitter, Lassell Perkins, Owen Gray and others. In the early years, each of my songs were constructed for dancing, especially for dancing. Heavy pounding beat. At this stage, this music was made specially for sound system, for dancing. So when you think of it, dancehall was from the beginning because that's where we usually promote our local recordings. Well, my main man at that time was Roland Alfonso. We get together, little lines, build it into a tune. Then when we get to the rehearsal, I would be taking care of the rhythm section because I always thought that was very important. And because of the kind of sound I was producing, they call the sound Coxson's downbeat, because it had that heavy pounding danceable beat. With our studio now, we had opened it to every and anyone. People from the ghetto and whatever it is came in, and this is how the trend started, that guys came in with just lyrics of actual everyday living and stuff like that. Some of them were, but like I say, in those days, I pay close attention to the lyrics and help them to make it make sense because, like I said earlier, not even Bob Marley and the Wailers came in there as professionals. They came in there as youth with idea. Then we work with them to make their idea work and give them idea how to build new songs and stuff like that, came up with some nice topic and then we build a story around the topic.
By the early 60s, a new sound was taking over in the Kingston dance halls. It was the driving sound of ska. Clement Dodd formed the Scatterlights, the group of musicians who helped create one of the most vital musical forms that the world has ever known. Bob Marley and the Wailers were one of the top groups of the ska era and enjoyed a string of hits during their stay at Studio One. Songs like the Jamaican tourist trademark One Love to the Rude Boy Simmer Down blared out from huge sound system speakers, aptly named House of Joy, and catapulted the Wailers into Jamaican stardom. Studio One became home to most of the great reggae artists and operated like a university where an artist could be groomed and finally brought to maturity. Artists like Dennis Brown, Ken Booth, Alton Ellis, Burning Spear, and many others were discovered by Clement Dodd and rose to prominence while under the Studio One banner. Through the evolution of Jamaican music, from ska to rocksteady to reggae, Studio One was always the originator and the innovator. With all the musicians and singers that have passed through the door of Studio One, the constant was always the ear of Clement Dodd. With thousands of recordings left unissued in the vaults, as well as nearly 10,000 songs actually released on the label, the enduring legacy of Studio One is practically ensured for years to come. In 1979, Studio One released Willie Williams' ghetto classic Armageddon Time, and later that year, The Clash, legendary UK punks, hit the mainstream with their cover of the song. Originally recorded by Studio One, the remake of Dawn Penn's No 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 became a worldwide hit in 1993, and in 2003, reggae DJ Sean Paul charted with his remake of Alton Ellis' 1967 hit, I'm Still in Love with You. Both of these songs, as well as the countless other remakes based on original Studio One rhythms, points to the status that the label enjoys in the world of reggae. Clement Dodd was the pivotal force in the creation of the Jamaican music industry and is considered to be one of the greatest music figures of the 20th century.
I saw Phoebe on the beach one Sunday morning, birds of caucus in the down beginning. Everybody's wanting on the beach. Come on now on the beach. I was dancing to the music, also dancing the downbeats on the beach.